Hey everyone, welcome to A Mess Nonetheless. I am Rachel.
And I'm Melissa, and we are sisters. And hello everyone, how are you today? Oh, I guess I asked that and nobody can actually answer me.
Nobody
Everyone
can.
say out loud how you are. I actually have to tell you guys a story of how I woke up this morning. So Bill and I have been sick, and I cough. I've had a chronic cough for years, so when I get sick, I cough even more. And I've struggled to sleep because of it. And last night was one of those nights where I was just up a lot, and I finally, around 3:30 this morning, fell asleep for about maybe 45 minutes or an hour to being aggressively woken up by Bill shaking me, Melissa. And I was like, what? He's like, oh, I didn't think you were breathing. And I was like, what? You thought I was dead? I was like, I was sleeping. Oh my God. It's like I was finally sleeping.
Why, Bill? Why?
I was like, just assume I'm always breathing.
Oh my gosh. Whenever Randy comes over, that's our oldest son, he'll come over, and if I'm napping, he'll come in. Hey, Ma, you awake? Ma? Oh, hey, you're awake. I'm like, no, you idiot. I was sleeping.
He is way too old to be doing this.
I agree. I was like, Randy, stop waking me up. My other kids, my younger kids, I'll hear them open the door. Like if I'm in that like almost asleep phase, they'll open the door and silently close it. Except my 6-year-old, but the other ones do. And I'm like, I have trained them right. Where did I go wrong with Randy?
I don't know. You didn't yell at him enough.
I
Oh,
know.
speaking of yelling,
That's what we're going to talk about today. That's so funny. That was not planned or
it was
scripted.
not a planned segue. I just did that so naturally.
No, I should have yelled at him more. So we titled this one "When They Force Me to Yell," and we're using air quotes because someone can't force us to yell. I mean, in fact, what was it that Dad always said growing up? No one can make you feel a certain way. Like he made me mad. He made me this, and he used to always say that no one can make you feel. Anyway, like we allow ourselves to go down that.
We hated that phrase growing up.
I hated it. Oh my gosh. I'm like, everyone makes me mad. Everyone makes me sad. Like, I was like, just let me have my feelings.
Yeah. I still
it's a bad phrase, Dad. We still don't like it.
I know. And I don't know that I 1,000% agree with it. I get where he was going with it, but because we are responsible for how we react, at least. I think people can make us feel a certain way, but we are responsible for how we react.
I know. I actually don't know how much I agree with it either. I'm not sure that I don't have a solid stance for disagreeing with it. I just don't, it doesn't quite jive. Like it doesn't make sense to me, but I know I have this friend who used to say like same thing, kind of like no one can make you feel anything. It doesn't already exist within you. So if like jealousy doesn't exist within you, someone can't make you jealous because you don't have any jealousy to be had or whatever. No one can make you mad if you don't have, but I was like, but we do have feelings and God did make us with feelings.
Right.
So I honestly don't know. I don't know. We have a lot of unknowns in this topic. We were already like discussing and questioning. And I was like, we should just hit record and be doing this on our podcast because that's what we do. Yeah. So my first question was like, is it ever okay to yell at people? And I decided that biblically it's not. And Melissa was like, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just don't know. I was like, is it actually unbiblical to yell? I'm like, it doesn't really
she was like, did Jesus ever yell? And I was like, well, we don't know if he yelled. He turned over tables and he scolded.
Yeah. So Rachel said to me, she goes, well, it's never biblical to, what was the phrase you used? It's never biblical to, it's always biblical to keep your tongue in check. Keep control. And I said, well, I don't necessarily think that yelling and always goes in hand with being,
out of control with your tongue.
Out of control with your tongue. Yeah, I don't know what my words are. And
whereas for me, it usually almost always does.
Yes, and so does my husband. When he yells, it's usually because he's out of control with his tongue. And I think that for me, it's out of being backed into a corner and nobody's listening to me, and I'm having a little tantrum. But I'm not saying bad things with my mouth. I'm saying, listen to me.
That is so funny. Well, I said, well, don't you apologize then when you yell? And she's like, not if they made me yell because they're not listening. And I was like, oh, okay.
If I am hurtful or rude with raising my voice at my kids, I will definitely apologize. But I don't think I'm a big yeller. I am firm. Like I talk firm. So my kids probably would say I yell all the time because when I talk firm, they say I'm yelling. And I'm like, this is not yelling.
They're like, oh my gosh, they don't even know. Like,
and I'm thinking, you've heard your dad yell. We're not in the same genre right now.
If the neighbors can hear him yell, then you cannot be compared. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if the neighbors can hear him yell, but I know. Well, so, there's so many verses. I mean, we talked about controlling our tongue and our words mattering and stuff. There's so many verses about how we speak to people. It's like Proverbs 15:1, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. So to me, yelling and harsh words are opposite of soft answer. Right. Yes. So like to me, I'm like, what'd you say?
I'm just laughing at the way you're deconstructing that.
Well, we're having a debate-ish. Yeah. Like, I'm like, to me, that's what that means. Like, yelling is not a soft answer, obviously. Yeah. And they're using harsh words, which of course, yelling does not always equal harsh words. I don't really use harsh words almost ever, but I do raise my voice like plenty. And so I believe it's not biblical, but I still do it. Yeah. Not something I have in check yet. So Proverbs 29:11, a fool gives full vent to his spirit. We talk a lot about venting. Okay, so that's a foolish thing. But a wise man quietly holds it back. I don't know. To me, these say like we shouldn't be yelling. Proverbs 12:18, there's one whose rash words are like a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Again, rash words and yelling are not the same. Yeah. So some of these could go either way. Like, I really don't know.
Yeah. And for those of you who are wondering why I'm even asking that question, is I always ask the question. I'm always like, is what we're saying accurate? Is what we're saying, like, is it actually biblical to not? Is it unbiblical to yell? And what Rachel said to me, she goes, well, I don't think there's any Bible verses encouraging yelling.
And she was like, well, that's true.
I'm not a big yeller, so I'm not trying to get around wanting to yell. It's just the way my brain works is I've learned in order for me not to just always believe what I've always been taught or to whatever I just
got to question it.
Yeah. So that's all we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and this one's pretty clear. Proverbs 15:8, a hot-tempered man. So to me, yelling and hot-tempered go together. Stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger quiets contention. I don't know. I feel like it's pretty biblical.
Yeah, I think maybe yelling and because I'm literally doing what my kids do. You're yelling at me, Mom. No, I'm talking firm. Like I'm talking in a strong voice. That isn't the same as yelling. So I'm thinking of people taking a strong stance and standing their ground and saying
not the same.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I believe fully biblically they're not the same. No. Jesus took plenty of firm stances. And
that's what I was processing through in my mind is was any of that ever considered yelling? And you are probably right that it was not.
Well, and I wasn't there. So I'm just
when I review my tape recordings from those days and age when Jesus was talking, I can see that he was not yelling.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that was stupid.
Thank you.
I don't know why I said it.
You can just delete that out, but you probably won't.
No, I probably won't. So if we decide it's not in the Bible to yell, so there's a strong case to not yell in the Bible. Yeah. So then what should we do when we do yell at our loved ones? Because we do it. Yeah. I do it. I'm not a screamer. I don't say things that I shouldn't say when I'm angry or mad. I don't usually swear. Like I certainly don't swear at my children or whatever. There is one person in my life who swears whenever they're mad, and sometimes I match that. Joey's like, "You're supposed to be Christ to that person." I'm like, "It's just so easy." Okay, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
You're like, "Shut the bleep up."
Yes. There's always an apology that follows. Always, whenever I'm mad, whether I'm speaking truthfully, I'm not speaking harshly, whatever, I still apologize. Especially, so it's interesting because the one kid of mine, of my younger four, the one who I feel like, the two who I feel like can handle yelling the most, and almost like sometimes quote unquote need it. Like it's like that's when they pay attention.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
They are the ones who will come to me and be like, "It really hurt my feelings when you yell at me."
Sure. Interesting.
And so then that's how I know, like if those two can handle it the most. And then my middle two, they're just pretty sensitive. So I try really hard never to raise my voice at them because it is instant. Their everything changes. Their face changes, their mood, and so I try really hard not to yell at them. I try really hard not to yell at all of my people. Yeah. But some of them I try harder because I know it kind of crumbles them.
Yeah. You don't want to
Eland, my
break their
youngest,
spirits. Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to like crush their spirits. My youngest, he will be like, it really hurt my feelings when you yelled at me. But sometimes I feel like it's good for him to have his feelings hurt because he hurts everybody's feelings.
Yeah.
So
He needs
sometimes
to
he
know
just
what it
doesn't
feels
care.
like. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm not doing it to hurt his feelings. I'm not doing
Mm-hmm.
it on purpose. I also think there's a purpose that God can use it.
Yeah.
So like yesterday, for instance, it's nothing to do with yelling, but he had at church on Sunday, his little friend brought me this beautiful little, it was in the shape of a tulip. It was the art, and it was like watercolored. She had made it. It was
Mm-hmm.
so cute. And I said, Madison, is this for me? And she goes, well, it's for EJ, but he didn't want to hold on to it. So can you? And on the back, there was an E and an M. And I said, what's that for? And she goes, it's Eland and Madison. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so sweet. So it's in the car on Monday after school. And Elon goes, why is this in here? And I go, oh, Madison gave it to me to hold. And he goes, I told her I didn't want that.
Oh, lovely.
And I was like, excuse me? And he was like, yeah, I told her I didn't like it and I didn't want it. And I was like, and
Yeah.
he makes me stuff all the time and he's so proud. And I said, how would you
Yeah.
feel if you brought me your red folder filled with art? And I was like, I don't want any of that. I don't like
Right.
any of it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, that would hurt my feelings, right? And I was like, so then why did you do it? And he's like, because I didn't care about her feelings.
I mean, I guess at least he's honest.
He's very honest. He's very honest. He's like the sweetest kid until he's not. And he was like, I just didn't care about her feelings. And I was like, well, but your feelings would be hurt. Well, yeah, I don't want people to do that to me. And so I was like, he was really like indignant.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, for the rest of the day, I'm not going to worry about your feelings. And then he was mad. Don't do that to me. That's so mean. And then he was like, I hate you, which he's the only one of my kids who's ever said it. And he's only said it a couple of times. We're big on, we don't say hate. My kids know they're allowed to hate Satan and no one else. Like, and that is biblical. And so, I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to hate Satan, but I just believe we are.
Seems like he's hate-worthy.
I mean, yeah. Anyways, so, he ends up like sitting in his bed and having a good old pout fest. And when he comes out, he ended up sending her a video saying he was sorry. But it's like, he learns from these things. Like, I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but I was like, it's the only way he really pays attention. Like by me saying, well, then I'm not going to care about your feelings.
Yeah.
And he got real mad when I announced it. We're just not going to worry about Elan's feelings for the rest of the day. And then he was mad.
Because he got some pride.
Yeah, that might have been a touch too far. I don't know. But so all that to say is that, I do think that regardless of if I should or shouldn't, I do think that when our really like hard kind of like outer shell kids express that it bothers them when we do something, God uses that. Like, I fully believe that. I don't think it's permission for us to do it, but I also like, well, God, can use anything. What's the verse? God can use all things for the good, of those who love him. It's like even our garbage. So that being said, that's how I really believe I'm not right when I yell at my kids or my husband, because it hurts all of them. They have all expressed that it hurts them, which then says to me, I shouldn't do it. Now, maybe you have a different household and your kids are like, mom's yelling, get your shoes on, come down the stairs. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in my house, it hurts my kids. And so I do apologize. Like, I think 95% of the time, I mean to always apologize. I'm like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled. I could have communicated that without raising my voice.
I think I tend to yell when I am, like I said, kind of I feel exasperated. Like, oh my gosh, why is nobody listening to me? Like, I raise my voice in that aspect. And normally they're the ones then apologizing to me because they're like, I'm sorry. So that's why I'm like, it's not that I don't apologize if I'm rude, but a lot of times my yelling comes from that. Like, I'm like literally thinking through, trying to think through scenarios.
I've had kids, like even my little neighbor next door, he's 18 months old, and their backyard butts up to our driveway. So sometimes he wants to come play with the balls, and they just pass him over the fence, and he comes and plays with us. Well, if a ball goes like running towards the road, and I yell like "Parker, stop!" because I still apologize because I know that scares them. I'm like, I'm sorry I yelled. It was very important. I got your attention like right away. And I always did that with my little kids. I still apologize, but I was like, because I just know, I know it scares them or it hurts them, but it also gets their attention. And sometimes there's just a need for that. And I will stand by that, but I still apologize.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's what I do when I yell at my loved ones. I apologize. I do appreciate when my kids come and tell me how the way I speak makes them feel, because then
for sure.
It's helpful then, because I'm like, okay, I really need to work on this. And I'm not a huge yeller either. I used to be. I'm not. My husband hates yelling. He doesn't even like when we get across the house to each other.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's dumb. But I don't like when my kids yell across the house, but I'm a grown up and I can yell across the house to anybody in my house. But he doesn't like it. He's just like, can we not? And so I have gotten better at it. But in general, I'm not a huge yeller. I do feel like this last year, my voice has been raised on the like much more regularly. Just I shared some stuff in the last, just some stuff I'm dealing with in my marriage, and I'm just a little mad sometimes, and so I'm much more short tempered and hot fused, or hot tempered and short fused.
Yes, that's right.
And it's not excusable, it's not permissible, but I'm also like, I'm just in the season, and I'm hoping to not be in it forever. But it's like extra hard because it's making things worse because my husband hates being around yelling, not even if it's aimed at him. He hates being around it. But he definitely doesn't like if it's aimed at him.
Yes. No, I'm more on the page with Joey in that. Like, I don't like, I don't like, because my kids, I mean, I live in a very loud household. Like, we can sound like we're yelling just in talking because we all are very, very loud. And I'm a part, I mean, I have a loud voice. Rachel has a loud voice, but my husband has a loud voice. All my kids have a loud voice. And sometimes I feel like they're all just yelling, and I'm like, oh my gosh, can everyone just talk? Like, and they're not fazed by it. They're like, we're not mad at each other. I'm like, I know, it just feels like
it feels
too much. Yeah. And I'm just processing through yelling. In my head.
Well, I think because you're not a huge yeller. Like, so then it feels a little like when you do yell, which is so seldom, you're kind of like, it is different. I know. Yeah. Versus like someone like me or Bill, who like yelling is our default. We have to work really hard not to be that way.
Yes.
And I mean, I would guess at least 50% of our audience is like Bill and I, if not more. And I do feel like even people who aren't yellers turn into yellers when they have kids.
For sure. Absolutely. And, especially
I don't remember you yelling at your kids much when they were little.
Yeah, I was going to say
that up.
No, I didn't yell a lot when they were little. I tend to be a more steady, like in my reactions to things, and so that's why, like when I get to yelling, I'm like in tears because I'm just like I feel ignored and I feel exasperated is the word that I keep thinking of, and so then it feels like hurtful to me that I am at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dad didn't yell much growing up at all, but when he did, we knew we had pushed him.
Yes, in fact, I have a story.
We were apologizing like your kids.
Right, exactly. Like, we pushed him to the edge. So I have a story about this. So, like Rachel said, our dad really, I mean, he's raised his voice maybe a handful of times in our life. Like, he's just very calm.
Let us not forget, this is the one who tackled someone to the ground in pursuit of someone who was
so that was
running from the cops.
Extra impressive. Exactly. But so after I graduated high school, we were living in Tennessee, and I wanted to come back to Minnesota because this is where we're from. And I moved in with my grandparents, our mom's mom and dad. And our grandpa is amazing. But if you've ever seen the movie Meet the Fockers, he was the dad. Like, he circle of trust, like kind of just doesn't, you have to earn him for trust. And he's very intense. He was a prison warden and a Marine. Yeah, and a Marine. I mean, he was stern. He laughed like had the best laugh in the world, but he was very, very intense and stern, and he could get mad. And one time I was living with them, and I was in the bathroom getting ready, and he's like pounding on my bathroom door because he wanted to talk to me about something, but he was definitely very stern in this pounding. And I mean, he never got mad at me, and I lived there, but I was like, Grandpa, I'm in my towel. I can't answer. What's wrong? Why are you so mad? And he's like, I'm not mad. I'm just being really firm. And I was like, Grandpa, your firm is like my dad's angry. Yeah. So when you're knocking on the door firm, I'm in trouble. If my dad.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Did he apologize?
We died laughing. He knew as soon as I said it how true that was.
That's so funny. Well, I saw this quote that I loved, and it's unknown. The author is unknown, and I loved it. It says, an apology is the super glue of life. It can repair just about anything. True. Now, obviously, apology after apology with no change is where you gotta back it up with some change.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's true. I always tell my kids, it's not so much as what you do as how you handle it in the end. Obviously, I would love if they just handled everything perfectly, but I don't, so I can't expect that.
Yeah.
But if they can come back and like own it and be like, I handled that poorly. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have done that. Right. Changes everything. And it's not
Yep.
even because I need the apology. It brings you closer together, and there's
Right.
humility, and there's, reconciliation and
Mhm.
resolution. And so I
Yeah,
just
almost
loved
anything
that quote.
can be healed if
Mhm.
there is a
Right.
genuine apology involved. Yeah,
So if
that's
you're
true.
a big yeller and it does not get backed with an apology, I'm just going to big fat challenge you right now. That is our challenge to you today, right
Yeah.
in the middle of this. You need to
Mhm.
start apologizing, honestly,
Mhm.
every single time. That is
Mhm.
my opinion,
Mhm.
and my belief and my experience is that it it changes things. It does. It
Yep.
softens hearts. And honestly, it's humble. It's humbling. It's a reminder to us. I don't want to apologize 40 times a day for yelling. I
Mhm.
would much rather apologize once or twice, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm still probably apologizing 10 times a week for yelling. Maybe not even
Mhm.
that much, but like some weeks, of course, it might be more.
Mhm.
Well, that's because I probably yelled 40 times a day. And when I started apologizing, I was like, well, this is embarrassing. And so I
Right.
started,
Exactly.
it's a mirror. That apology is
I was
really a
just gonna
mirror.
say. I was
Yeah.
just gonna say the word mirror. Yep.
You
Exactly.
and your visuals. I'm learning from you. I love your visuals. They're always helpful for me. So, and honestly, it's so simple. If you're not apologizing, it's so simple. I shouldn't have done that. It was not
Mhm.
fair to you. I was
Mhm.
wrong. I'm sorry. Like
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
easy. Remy, my 10-year-old, he's so sensitive, and I shouldn't have yelled at you, buddy. I could have said that in 100 other ways. Can you forgive me? And
Mhm.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I don't want to yell.
Yeah.
And he always forgives me. They all do, and but also I'm always changing. I'm always working on it. If I just
Yeah.
yelled more and more and more, I'm just apologize. Our apology is kind of dead. I mean, it is. It needs to be
That's
back
what
with some works, but
That's what I was gonna say. I'm like, yes, start apologizing. Hopefully, like Rachel said, you'll be like, oh, that is embarrassing. I don't want to be apologizing 40 times a day. But if you're like, oh, I'm just gonna keep apologizing and not
right,
change, it
Mhm.
eventually the apology will mean nothing, and
Right,
it's like you lose your
credibility,
trust and integrity in that
hmm
because
for sure.
yeah.
Well, I love the verse in Psalm 51:3 that says, "For I know my transgressions and my sin is ever before me." I love that because it's like when we pay attention to what we're doing wrong and we see it, then we
Mm-hmm.
want to do something about it. If
Mm-hmm.
we turn a blind eye to it and we just pretend it's not an issue and we don't
Mm-hmm.
really see it, then we're not going to do something about it. And that's where
Right.
apologizing is humbling because you're suddenly
Mm-hmm.
faced with the facts and the reality of how
Mm-hmm.
often it needs to be done.
Well, and
Um,
you're admitting to somebody else, like, I'm in the wrong. Like every time I do this,
right.
I'm in the wrong. And yeah.
Well, and saying sorry shows maturity. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's teaching our kids, first of all, we want to raise people who can apologize. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's not a single person here, if you have kids or maybe even just nieces and nephews,
Mm-hmm.
you want them to be people who apologize. And
Right.
they do that through modeling. There is
Yeah.
I mean, it's very unlikely that kids are going to grow up and learn how to apologize well if they weren't modeled that.
It's true.
Um, and 1 Corinthians 13:11 says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a
Mm-hmm.
child. I reasoned like a child. And when I was a
Mm-hmm.
man, I gave up my childish ways. And
Mm-hmm.
I just love this pairing with the apology is because when we're
Mm-hmm.
kids, yeah, Elon didn't even think he needed to apologize to his friend for
Right.
saying, I don't like that. I don't want that because
Right.
he's
Right.
6.
Yeah.
By the time he's 18, he will know. He might not
Yep.
apologize, but he will know he owes that person an
Yes.
apology because
Yep.
he is being taught, hey, that's not okay. And you need to take care of your friend's heart in this matter.
Yeah.
And then Matthew 5:23-24 said, what if you are offering your gift at the altar? So this is like a gift to God, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
offering something to God. And then you remember that someone has something against you.
Mm-hmm.
Leave your gift and go make peace with that person. Then come and offer the gift.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a really good reminder to me that like when we have an issue between someone with someone, especially when it's ours to own, there is a
Mm-hmm.
disconnect between us and God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this
Yeah.
verse says to me. Is that what it would
Mm-hmm.
say to you too?
Oh, for sure. And again, when I read this, I think of so I often see the parallel of parent. Like I know not everyone's a parent, but
Right.
because I am a parent, I learned so much about who God was with me and who I am with God through my parenting. And so like yeah, if I have a child coming who I know has just been rotten to another kid in my house, but then they want to come to me and act like everything's normal, I'm
Right.
like, hey now,
You
I've
need to go
seen
deal
this.
with that.
Yeah, like you, especially if they're like asking for something, like, can you give
Right.
me a ride, or can I have a snack, or can I borrow some money, or can I go to the movie? Like, Yeah,
Or even
not
like a
when
snuggle. Like if they're little, you don't want to deny your kid a snuggle, but it's like you
no.
need to go take care of your
Yep.
business before we do this
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we are not okay
Yep.
when you are not okay with that person.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great. I've never actually thought of it that way, but I don't know why
Mhm.
because that's like a really clear example.
It's just the way my brain works. Like
Yeah.
analogies and metaphors just are always, it's like it helps me make it real. And so God has spoken a lot to me through
Yeah.
analogies and metaphors.
I love it. I
But I
love
was
it.
going to say about the apologizing, because I had said that, Bill is more the yeller in our family, but he is also the one who has led the example
Mhm.
from the day I met him in apologizing. I remember when we first started dating, he would apologize to me about things that I would be like, that doesn't seem necessary to
Yeah.
apologize for. He's like, why would I not apologize to you if I
Yeah.
did something that was hurtful, even if it's
Mhm.
small? And it helped me really understand the importance and the value of apology. And so, and obviously, like with the yelling, he's gotten so much better at yelling. Like that is something he's with anger stuff, he's worked on it, and he doesn't yell near the way he used to.
Like he's
So
a
when
better
it's
yeller now. He's better
yes,
at it. He's gotten so much better at yelling.
so much better.
He's taken some
Like
classes. He's
that
really
was
creative.
direct and to the point in that yelling, yes. And but he anytime he yells at our kids, which is not often, but when he does, he is immediate to apologize. I mean, he
Mhm.
always goes and apologizes to them. And so
Mhm.
and I can say that they like have so much respect for him, even though
Mhm.
he has yelled at them more than I have. Because
Yeah.
of the conversation that comes after it, and they
Mhm.
know that he's humble when he's apologizing,
Mhm.
and it's created really great relationships with,
Right.
we have adult kids and teenagers, and
Right.
that
Well,
if he hadn't been an apologizer, I think he
right.
could have hurt their relationship.
Yes.
He would have hurt their
Mhm.
relationships, is what
For
I'm trying
sure.
to
And I
say.
would say the same of myself.
Yeah.
You know, I think humility too, it makes relationships more safe. Like it makes
Yes.
the
Oh,
other
for
person more
sure.
safe because you know
Hmm.
they can see what they've done, how they hurt you, and they want
Hmm.
to do better.
Yeah.
So our third point is to make a plan to move forward. So we said you got to apologize, right? But let's make a plan to move forward. And I
Hmm.
have another unknown quote, and I don't know why I care to know who wrote these things, but I do. I'm like these people need credit because this is a good
Hmm.
one. Apologies are not meant to change the past. They are meant to change the future.
For sure.
And I
Yeah.
love that. And that's the whole
Yeah.
you have to back your words with showing effort and
Hmm.
change.
Hmm.
And so how will we stop hurting our loved ones? We have to make a plan. We have to share it with those we love, even
Hmm.
allowing them to tell us how it makes them feel. So like
Yes.
for me, when I'm like, I need to share with my kids, you guys, I know I'm really struggling this. I know it's affecting you. And
Hmm.
I'm laying out the plan. I am really going to work on it. Dad is going to hold me accountable. I'm praying about it. You know, you guys can hold me accountable. And I tell them what that looks like because they're kids and I want it to be done respectfully. Um,
Right.
but it's like, I'm going to lay it out. Like, this is how we're going to get to the bottom of this. I mean, we do that with our kids. Like,
Hmm.
hey, we see your grades are not great. Like, here's the
Hmm.
plan. Like, you're going to not have
Right.
any screens for a week. You're going to work on your
Right.
homework. You know, you're going to not miss any more assignments, things like that. Like, we
Hmm.
do. I think we need to do the same thing as adults whether we have kids or not. You do it to your husband, you do it to
Hmm.
your friend. If you're yelling
Hmm.
at like, let's say you are the boss at work and you're yelling at everyone. How
Yeah.
amazing would it be for your people under you if you're like, hey, I know I have a problem with yelling and I really want to work on it. Can you
Hmm.
guys just like trust that I'm working on it? It changes
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
Because I
What
know
gives
we keep talking
grace?
about kids, but what'd you say?
But no, anytime it allows grace to enter the
Yeah.
picture, because
Yeah.
as soon as, yeah, when somebody is offensive towards you, whether it's yelling or whatever, we're talking about yelling, it's so easy to just start building a wall with them. But the minute they're not only apologize, but then also say, I am working on this. This is like,
Right.
suddenly we have grace for their mistakes, and we have,
Right.
it's like, it softens everything about the relationship. Yeah. Whether it's
Right.
in a work environment or a friendship or kids, whatever. Yeah.
Right. Well, and like God honors our desire to make a change. Like he
Mhm.
totally does. Psalm
Mhm.
20 verse 4 says, may he grant you your heart's desire and fulfill all your plans.
Mhm.
That's not just talking about, I want a vacation and I want a big house. It's like, I want to stop yelling at my family members.
Yeah.
That if that's our heart's desire and we are bringing that to him, he will make changes. We might never
Mhm.
be perfect. I mean, we are still living in this, fallen world, but
Mhm.
huge changes can come as a result of that. And then
Well,
Proverbs 16:3,
and
commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. If you're like, Lord, I want this. I promise to my family, I'm working on this with me and
mhm.
God. Like he is going to help us. Sorry, what were we going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, when, it talks our heart's desire, is that my understanding of that is, like you said, it's not about like, I want a vacation stuff, but when our heart aligns with the heart of God,
Yep.
Why would he not want to step in and be like, let's do this thing? Like, if our desire is to align our heart, and of course he wants us to be humble and grace-filled, or great, and not grace-filled. I mean, yes, that, but that's not what I meant. Humble and apologetic. I know I was like, that's not what I meant in this scenario, is that
but also
he wants us to be humble and apologetic.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, he's absolutely going. I mean, think about it again. If I'm talking about my kids again, because this is where I have, but even my husband or a friend, if somebody comes to me and says, I am really struggling in this area, will you help me? And I can see that like, this is a good avenue for them to be working on. I'm going to do whatever I can to help them. And I'm just a human being. Like, God, our creator, is going to do everything to help us. And
exactly. So our last point is just pray, pray, pray. Like, we just need to be praying about these things. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. James 5:16 and Philippians 4:6, do not be anxious about anything. In every situation, present your request to God. We have to be praying about these things.
Yep.
Because we can't just change ourselves.
No. And, the Bible talks about praying without ceasing. And that is something that has been something that I have practiced and focused on since probably for 25 years, really. It's probably since getting married. And what that looks like to me, it's not that I'm always like, dear Lord Jesus, blah, 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 dear Lord Jesus, blah, blah, blah. Like, but when I know something is like getting heated or something's about to happen, I in my head, I'm like, okay, Lord, okay, Jesus, talk to me. Okay. Like sometimes we don't have enough time to like say words to him, but I will just call on his name and I can feel him flooding, the Holy Spirit flooding me with giving me a calmness or words to say or a humility or whatever it is that I need in that moment. And that's what I believe praying without ceasing is just always keeping him right here in your mind, even in the middle of, I mean, there's times when we're doing this podcast and I suddenly am like, I don't know how to say what I want to say, or I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say. And I'm like, okay, I'm like in my head, I'm like, okay, Lord, say it through. Like, I need you, like you need to be on. And like, and so
yeah. So I kind of already gave my challenge. Do you remember what it was? I don't remember what it was.
Apologize.
Oh, was that our challenge?
I think that's what you did challenge people that.
Okay. I could not for the life of me. I was like, I'm doing that challenge right now, but that's what it was.
Yeah. You said start apologizing right now.
Okay. That's a good one.
That is a good one. High five.
I'm going to type it out right now. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for joining us and rating us and reviewing us and sharing us. And if you haven't done that, please do.
Yes.
And yeah, we also love to hear from you guys. So feel free to reach out to us. Let us know what you're learning, what you want to hear about, things like that. So
yes. All right, guys. Have a great day.
You might feel that your life is a mess, but don't feel bad. Ours is too, but we own a microphone and we have no shame. That's why we'll talk about how our life is a mess nonetheless. That's the name of our podcast.